that we need, yeah, nobody can dispute the fact that we need, yeah.
Well, that looks like a man that is confused, and he is being caught on the spot, caught red-handed. Bill Clinton in 2017 there looked like he was being heckled. We love hecklers here at Base Boys Media. Hecklers do a lot, and that is really what it takes to challenge the narrative from corrupt, elite criminals like Bill Clinton. What are your thoughts on Bill Clinton? We got Big Steve on the show tonight. We're excited to have you here. It's been like 2 months. How you been, Big Steve? And we are having technical difficulties. We cannot hear you. Go ahead one more time. I can hear you. Yeah.
Hey, Bill Clinton, he's definitely one of a kind. I mean, how many different rape allegations did he have against him over the years? It's I mean, it was at least 5 or 6, I want to say. But yeah, that was a guy that was very taken off guard by that comment and didn't quite know how to respond.
Oh.
It was kind of a Joe Biden moment, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sick of these elite politicians that don't represent the interest of us and love to conduct themselves in sexual immorality. As well as we can see, a lot of these people are tied to Epstein. Clinton heavily tied to Epstein. But we got the documents. The Jeffrey Epstein documents have been released. We're going to cover those documents, but then we're also going to add some interesting nuance to the situation and really show you that it's not much of a revelation. It's more of a cover-up, and there's a lot more to it than there is. Also, the Donald Trump documents, he released some documents as well. He released a summary on the election fraud, basically writing out in detail and very fine detail of all of the different fraud, and we're going to take a look at that today. We'd like to go where the mainstream media doesn't. Would you agree?
100%. 100%.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to be here today. We are ready to go. You're filling in for Micah today, so audience, I know you guys are missing Mike out there. He will be back hopefully soon. So let's get into the show today. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is Thursday, January 4th, coming to you live from the Base Boys World Headquarters here in the United States. And we are pro-America, anti-establishment, and we are ready to challenge the corporate narrative and just cover the news and, give our base take on everything that's going on. So my first question for you, Big Steve, is, man, do you doubt that there's an elite group of basically, I would say, pedophiles, sexually immoral people in charge? And, what do you think on that whole thing? I mean, I remember when I first came to me like 5 years ago when I heard about Pizzagate, I was like, actually, 7 years ago at this point. I can't believe 2017 was that long ago. When Liz Crokin initially went off on Pizzagate and started reporting on that, the whole pedophile ring, I didn't believe it. I was like, no, this isn't real. There's not pedophiles that are in charge. There's not super secret sex cults going on. But then Epstein happens, and then, more just continues to snowball, and we start to see a little bit more. What are your thoughts on that?
I want to say it was like 2004, 2005. Actually, I think it was even earlier than that. I think it was back when the Clintons were still in office. This whole Pizzagate is kind of when I first heard about it, about the child sex rings and the pedophilia and this and that. And it's one of those things that back 20 some odd years ago, it's, like you said, you don't want to believe it. It's like, you want to hold your leaders to a higher standard. You want to think that, Americans are a little better at this and that. But as time comes through and things, more and more things come out, it's harder not to believe it. It's, in a way, I guess I'm really not even surprised by it anymore. With just the stuff we've seen with everything over the last few years, it just doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, and then what the mainstream media is going to sit out and say is they're going to say, well, there's nothing that's ever been proven in the court of law. We don't have anything that's accurate. And, they just try to shut you down every chance they get with these narratives. And I think a lot of it is just so much is the the hard drives that they found, because that's what's going to have the blackmail information on it. If you know anything about Jeffrey Epstein, he's literally an intelligence asset, whether it's FBI, Mossad, all closely related to Mossad. I mean, Ghislaine Maxwell's dad was a Mossad agent, Robert Maxwell. But when we go back to it, it's all about blackmail and holding these politicians to blackmail to control certain narratives. Now, how far the rabbit hole goes with that, I'm not totally certain. But I want to get into this Mike Cernovich thing, and he was one of the first attorneys to actually go into detail with, prosecuting and filing a lawsuit to release the Epstein files. So one of the biggest things here, we'll scroll down here to this article by the Gateway Pundit, is when he tried to file these articles. So one of the things is they filed him under the Mann Act. So the Mann Act is basically just unlawful to transport underage girls through interstate travel, including on an airplane. So that's basically what they arrested him for. Nobody else was arrested. He's the sole individual in this. And nobody else has faced scrutiny except for Epstein. I mean, we see all these people in the public limelight, like, Jimmy Kimmel, getting blasted by Aaron Rodgers on live TV, which is hilarious. Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, like all these people that are in these elite circles that always have ties to one another. They never face any scrutiny, and there's never anything there. We also had Amy Robach in ABC. So I don't have the clip with me, but in a few years ago, she came out and said, we have the information. We've got stuff that can go against this Epstein case, but they didn't. They were shut down by the corporate media press because of wanting to get in with, the princess and whatever, the royal family stuff. So it's like they sacrifice the important news stories for stuff that doesn't matter, stuff that wants to distract you. Does any of this surprise you at all, that everything is getting covered up and we're not actually getting the information that we need? Because this court case, yeah, it's a minor revelation and implicates a few people, but at the end of the day, we need the blackmail information.
No, it doesn't surprise me that it's being covered up. I mean, and you're never going to see. You're never going to see the hard drives. You're never going to see the thumb drives. You're never going to see that. I mean, I'm sure they've already been in contact with Hillary Clinton on how to bleach fit all the servers and all the hard drives and this and that. And I don't ever see anything happen. I mean, you can go back. I mean, look at the Biden laptop. Look at this whole the Biden corporate family taking the money from China. You can go back to the Clinton Foundation. You can go back to Hillary and her 30,000 emails she deleted. There is an elitist group in this country, Marxist, Democrat, communist, whatever the hell you want to call them, because it's all kind of one, that doesn't have to face, justice. I mean, our justice system, I think, has been totally hijacked. I think it's an absolute joke. I mean, if Donald Trump jaywalks tonight, they're probably going to charge him in a federal court. But all these other things can happen, and nobody seems to care. It's look the other way. I mean, it's just sad that we can't get the truth. In our media, you can't cover it. I mean, it refuses to cover it. I mean, they're in bed with them, um, the whole nine way. And I mean, how many executives from ABC or NBC or CBS have visited Epstein Island too. I mean, it's a tight knit group that are all kind of wrapped together. And
Yeah.
I don't think you'll ever see. I don't think it'll ever come out.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things that never come out. It all gets squashed because the powers that be want to maintain their power. And I think this is interesting. So Bill Clinton, he says he likes his girls young. He's visited Epstein Island, multiple times. No FBI raid, zero charges. But Trump, never on Epstein Island, never in any Epstein homes. He's actually been exonerated by some of these court documents we'll get into a second. 91 charges, 4 federal indictments, or four indictments, removed them from the ballot. I mean, people have to pay attention. I mean, you don't even have to know all the details in every news story and every news segment. I mean, if you just pay attention to who the judiciary goes after, and just all the selling out of everything. I mean, just everything. Just pay attention. You can see that it's clearly there's an elite power grab that's been around for a really long time, which makes me believe that I don't even know if we have the ability to ever take it over. But I mean, that could be a conversation for another day. But moving right along, I want to play this Jason Burmis video. So he went on to InfoWars, and he is also explaining kind of in the same light as what Cernovich is talking about is we need what the FBI is hiding. Actually, I'll backtrack here real quick. So we want to know what's in the safe. So during the FBI raid, the safe went missing. It was reported that Jeffrey Epstein's safe went missing after the raid. What's in the safe? We don't know. That's the information we want to know. So Jason Burmis has some good coverage on this.
Now, what you're looking at here are
throw in real quickly. Remember, all the new viewers, you're hearing nothing about all the DVDs, about the hard drives, about the VHS tapes, closet after closet grabbed by the FBI. You're hearing nothing about that. Why? It isn't, again, the list is a total distraction. What is on the damn videotapes?
Oh, there it is, folks. It is what's on the videotapes, what's on the hard drives. That's what's important. And I think it's conveniently enough that this was these files were dumped the same time as Trump releases his election fraud summary. Now, I'm not wearing a tinfoil hat. I don't think maybe it was just perfect timing, but it always happens out perfectly where, you know, a big story that implicates the elitists, something comes out the same time. Would you agree with that?
Oh, it comes out all yeah. I mean, look at Hillary Clinton news and school shooting. I mean, there's a correlation between the two. Now, maybe that just is coincidence, but it happens. I mean, there was a school shooting in Iowa today.
By a woke, I will add a note, by a trans shooter, I believe it was. Another SSRI jacked up individual, most likely.
I think the only reason it's probably not getting more attention is because it had a
doesn't fit the narrative.
Yeah, it's not an AR, so it's a 38 pistol and a 12 gauge. So yeah, it's not evil ARs. It is. There's always something that comes out. There's always a big news story that they can bury it. Usually shooting it wherever, however, mass shooting somewhere. The coincidence is just too much nowadays. You know, you can't just keep saying that. Oh, that just happened to bury a news story. It happens too many times. This is never going to see the light of day. You know, like these files, these hard drives, DVDs, books, all just going to disappear right along with the safe. You know.
Yeah.
It just, even him hanging himself and killing himself in the prison is a BS story.
That's if he actually killed himself.
Well, there is that, but I mean, you've got him. You know, all the cameras are off. They transfer his roommate out that morning, right after he's taken out suicide watch, and the guards are both fall asleep. I mean,
and the photos don't even add up too. The nose and the ears, like, they look completely different. Could have been a double of some sort. But again, we'll never get the question. We'll never get the further investigation. I mean, this case, this defamation case is completely closed. There's nothing else going on with it. It's like, where are the more depositions? Where is more into this to really figure out, what's going on? But the dying question, and I saw this from some liberals today, is they are mad. They are seething that Donald Trump is not implicated on this list because damn well, if he was, they would be going after him. And that's my first argument to these people that are mad about that. It's like, well, if you think Trump was implicated, why isn't the deep state going after him? They're going after him for everything else and these petty stuff. You think they'd go after him for that? They certainly would, but maybe not, because then it would expose them. So, but let's show you. Here are the documents. So did you ever see Donald Trump at Jeffrey's home? Not that I can remember. On his island? Not that I can remember. New Mexico? No. Not New York. And then Donald Trump, no. Did you ever massage Donald Trump? No. So, this is just one witness. But we also do have the information that Donald Trump did. He did kick out Donald Trump, or I think it was 2004. He kicked Epstein out of his Mar-a-Lago estate, and he did testify in court against Epstein. So I think it kind of exonerates Jeffrey Epstein. What do you know about that, Steve?
Well, there's that picture that I'd like to throw out of, Trump and Epstein. But yeah, it was after he was arrested the first time in Florida, was charged with, I don't remember exactly what he was being charged with, but it was related to underage girls, this and that. Yeah, Trump had him removed from Mar-a-Lago, pulled his membership from the golf club, this and that. But yeah, that's, if Trump's name was anyway, tied into, or his name was on a flight log or this or that, that would be the main story. They would redact every other name, this and that. They would be going through every hard drive and file trying to get a picture of him or this or that. It's the whole different game. And like I said before, between the Clinton Foundation, the Biden laptop, and all this other crap, it never sees the light of day. This will never see the light of day either. The media will cover it up. And I'm sorry, I think we need to know our leaders should be held to a higher standard. And if this is the crap they're doing, I think the American public needs to know, and they need to be removed and charged if what's being alleged is actually true.
You see, I prefer something better than hanging. I'm not for hanging. I'm getting right to it already. Getting too excited here. More than just charging. I think these people need to be hung. It's that simple. I mean, if you're going to commit these massive amounts of just egregious crimes, treason at the highest levels that we've ever seen. I mean, they're getting free health insurance in California. Medi-Cal is now giving illegal immigrants free health care. I mean, you're paying taxes in California, get the hell out. I mean, but people are just going to continue to be there and fund this. And I mean, the only thing that we can do at this point is use our voice and try to go through the system and the litigation process to stop these people. But if we can just get people to stop buying it, the everyday average people that buy into this, maybe it could take some power away from them. But I'm not sure. I don't really know who's pulling the strings. And you said the WEF. I mean, the WEF is really just a PR firm. They're not really, they're more of just pushing, I think, agendas from someone even further. But who really knows? But big win for Trump releasing all this information. Let's see if it gets squashed, or let's see if something actually happens with it. So President Trump releases a summary of election fraud in the 2020 election swing state. Now, there's a lot to go through on this. We won't go through a little bit of we won't go through it all, but we'll just go through some of the top ones here. So many states. So that's just Georgia. I don't know if, that might just be Georgia, but basically in those 5 states, you got Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, your lovely state of Wisconsin, and one other state, I believe. Let me see what it was. Arizona. Yeah, I always forget about Arizona. Great state of Arizona. But the lengthy report is basically breaking down the evidence in section for the swing states, those swing states, Georgia, Wisconsin, Arizona, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, respectively. Investigations across the country have uncovered avalanche of irregularities, unlawful activity, manipulation of election records, destruction of evidence, and fraud. The findings, which are outcomes determinative and are detailed in the summaries of the swing states. So, I mean, we've seen so many anomalies, and we see a lot of information being put forward and actual evidence. But why is nothing happening? I mean, do you know this?
You know what? I think it goes back to what we were talking about before with this whole Epstein thing. It's the justice system in this country is about possibly the most corrupt thing there is. I mean, there are so many questions about the 2020 election. There's questions about the 22 election. There's questions going back even further. 5 states all of a sudden decide to stop counting. Trump's ahead in those 5 states. Was it 3 hours later, whatever it was, they start counting again, and all of a sudden Biden's got a big lead. How does that happen? It's statistically and mathematically impossible. And I'm not a math expert, but there's plenty of math experts that have looked at it. But it's the way the whole system is set up. I mean, state of Wisconsin, a perfect example. If you look at what the state says for voter rolls, there's over 7 million registered voters in the state of Wisconsin, according to the voter rolls.
And what's the population?
Well, I'm not sure what the population. I was watching, Lindell was talking about this yesterday. If you take every person over the age of 18 that's actually eligible to vote, it's just
less.
3
million. Yeah.
So where are all these other people? They can turn votes on, they can turn votes off. I mean,
well, did you know this? So the Wisconsin Supreme Court actually ruled that. Let me actually drop it down so you can see it here. The Wisconsin Supreme Court ruled drop boxes are illegal under Wisconsin law in a 4-3 decision on July 20 of 2022, which is, I think, that's a good thing. But look how close the votes are. 20,000 votes. It's a really, really close election.
Well, it just some of the I mean, there was, and people have looked through this and people have broken this down, but there was, I want to say 1,300 votes in the 2020 election by people that had been registered to vote for 100 years. 100 years. So you got 1,300 people in the state of Wisconsin that are 118 years old, apparently, still voting. It's just that I had got a friend, I haven't seen him in a while, but he worked for the Republican Party in 2000 and 2004, which was Bush versus Gore, Bush versus Kerry. And he said that they're 99% sure that Bush won the state in both elections. It's just the voter fraud is so bad. That's why they've been pushing for the voter ID, which when you can just turn votes on, turn votes off, and this and that, it gets the voter ID doesn't even matter, and that's how they got around it.
Yeah.
But having these drop boxes that nobody's paying attention to and nobody's watching, I mean, there should be some exceptions. You're military and you're away from the state you're a resident in, okay. But very few exceptions. I'm a person who hates standing in line. Won't stand in line for anything. But on election day, I am there, and if I got to stand there for 2.5 hours, I'll stand there for 2.5 hours waiting in that line to vote because it's important. If you can't show up on the day to vote in person, then you don't need to vote. That's kind of the way I look at it.
Exactly. It happens every Tuesday, every year, depending on where you're at. But I mean, the general major election happens every Tuesday in November. I think plan around it. Like, obviously there's going to be people out of state, there's going to be people out of country. I mean, do you make an exception for those people, or should they maybe make it a holiday, but should those people have to do their diligence and plan to be in the States or be somewhere at the right time? Or what do you think? Should there be any sort of absentee, or should we just go straight paper, get rid of all the machines, and strictly just be man?
Well, I think you got to have some absentee. I mean, when I was in the military, I was stationed in Cincinnati. I mean, uh, you got to give the opportunity. But even um, I work in the trucking industry. Truckers are driving around the country all the time. I mean, it's you just can't shut trucking down for one day. I mean, there needs to be some sort of exception. What it is, how much it is, this and that. I mean, it's varied, but it needs to be very limited. Just because you don't feel like going to standard line to vote doesn't make
Yeah.
you an absentee ballot. There's voting 3 weeks early or a month early or 6 weeks early, whatever some of these states do. No, it needs to be one day. And you know what? You want to make an extra holiday and shut everything down? Do it. I'm fine with it, but it needs to be a one-day thing, and it needs to be a paper. I mean, these machines, they're not. They keep saying you're not connected. You're not connected to the internet. First of all, the voter rolls are on. So I mean, it's got to be some sort of connection, right? And second of all, if you can't connect to the internet, there's no reason to ever connect. Why are they even capable of being connected? There should be no reason that these machines aren't even capable of being connected to it. It's just another way to system to take over. Um, it'll be interesting to see how they do it this year. I mean, Donald Trump is by far the front runner. There's no way I mean, Biden's got the lowest numbers ever. Uh, the fact that anybody proves anything says not. But what happens this year? That's my question. I mean, Republicans really haven't pushed a whole lot, tried to do anything about it. A couple states have changed a couple months here and there. Really, they're going to have their mail-in ballots. They're going to have all their early voting. They're going to have drop boxes. Even in a state like Wisconsin, who says they're not constitutional, you know what? I guarantee you there'll be drop boxes in Wisconsin at the end of this year.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. The people were afraid to go vote. I mean, I fortunately didn't know anybody that was that afraid of COVID. I mean, you still have these COVID nimbats that are afraid, and they're probably going to want to push for some sort of drop boxes so they don't have to go stand in line. But we can see it just breeds corruption. And if you guys haven't seen it, for the audience that's watching, go check out Catherine Engelbrecht and Greg Phillips with True the Vote. They put out some of the best information regarding that. And they recently just won a suit, I believe, on something. I don't have the information with me, but they break down great how corrupt the ballot boxes is, and they have millions of video evidence, millions of minutes of video evidence showing people just cramming ballots. I mean, see a lady cramming in 20 ballots into one box. Like, you vote 20 times, you got a big family. Like, this is not how this should be. It needs to be secure, and hopefully by 2024 we see. I mean, you said a moment ago, Republicans aren't doing nothing. The do nothing Republicans aren't doing anything to do any sort of election reform. So I don't know if I have hope, but I do know this: the outcome of this 2024 election, it's going to be heavily refuted one way or another, no matter who wins. If Biden wins, I don't know what's going to happen from the MAGA movement, from the freedom movement, from the common sense Americans. And then if Donald Trump wins, who knows what the liberal left and the wokies and the indoctrinated mind will do? Probably explode, So, but I am looking forward to November 5th, 2024. It's like a movie showing.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that aspect. Is like, yeah, whoever wins, one way or another, it's going to be chaos. But there's another documentary out there. It's called the State of Denial. It's about the Arizona elections, which is just policy. And you're not paying enough attention to realize what January 6th actually was. It was a protest, and like you said, it was a guided tour. I mean, there were people. I mean, from day one, from the day after that election, that were pissed off about what the results were because we could see it. I mean, your average person could see that something is not right. Now, maybe Biden won straight up. We don't know because we can't actually get the information.
Can't get due process on it.
Yeah, we can't get process. We don't know what you know. 2000, the Bush Gore thing, the hanging, pretty young to remember 2000, but there was the whole thing over Florida.
The butterfly ballot.
Yeah, and it went back and forth in counting, and when the Supreme Court, finally, when it went to the Supreme Court and Bush was, um, confirmed the winner, they took all those ballots, and I think they went to the University of Miami, and they counted them multiple different ways, and they said, "Yep, Bush was the one that actually won it." But we haven't looked into this one. Nobody wants to look into this one. Nobody wants to touch into this one. You know, they want to go after Trump for being an election denier. Well, all right, media, why don't you prove them? Prove them wrong. You know, why don't you go and actually start looking at this stuff and figuring it out, and then being able to say, "Yep, see, Trump's an idiot. He's a liar. He actually lost. Here is our proof." But not one media outlet will do that.
Well, that's the problem. It's the entire corporate media is a PR firm for basic level information. It's one big PR firm that's not based in any facts or evidence. They just literally push out narratives that they see fit for their control, and then that's what gets pushed, and that's what the people believe, and they get all the facts completely removed from their brain.
Yeah, there's not enough people that have woken up yet. I mean, you were talking earlier with this Epstein thing, how you heard about it in 2017. It was like, we can't have much pedophiles running this country and this government. And now you look at it and be like, oh, hey, look at people haven't woken up to what the media actually does, and the media is a shill for the Democratic Party and all this liberal bullshit.
Well, we got to get into it. Running short on time today. Joe Biden always never fails to disappoint with his rhetoric, very very fumbling, and his campaign video. So they just released a campaign video. Let's take a look and just see how awfully bad it is.
Made the preservation of American democracy the central issue of my presidency. I believe in free and fair elections and the right to vote fairly and
fair.
Counted. Oh, something dangerous happened in America. There's an extremist movement.
We're extremists. I love it.
Basic beliefs in our democracy. All of us are being asked right now, what will we do to maintain our democracy? History's watching. The world is watching. Most important, our children and grandchildren will hold us responsible. The Vice President and I have supported voting rights since day one of this administration. And I ask every American to join me in this cause. America is still a place of possibilities where the power resides with we, the people. That's our soul. We are the United States of America. There is nothing beyond our capacity when we act together. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Well, free and fair elections, and we have an extremist threat. We are the extremists. If anybody's the extremist, it's the corrupt administrative state that doesn't follow the Constitution and, locks up Americans for freedom of speech and unlawfully goes after people. I mean, it doesn't get much more hypocritical than that. I mean, what do you think?
How many Trump supporters do you think were in the 2020 George Floyd riots across this country? I'm gonna go with probably not too many of them. I think those people are probably a little more violent and destructive than the whole mega movement. But everything he said in that commercial is a lie. I mean, this is the same guy. There's that clip of the bus with the black student sitting next to the white student. Yeah, look back at Joe Biden's voting record. He was totally against that. He didn't want his kids going to school with black people and becoming a racial jungle, as he said.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's a bunch of crap. They don't stand for any law and order. I mean, the border is a perfect example. The governor of Texas is trying to do something. His administration just sues him. I mean, what kind of law, justice, what kind of order is he trying to keep in this country?
None.
None whatsoever.
What did he say about the border? He didn't say anything about the border in that video. I mean, it's just a campaign video. He's not going to address everything, but it's just like
Politicians are the point where they don't care anymore. It's like, hey, we can get away with get away with it. I mean, who's going to stop us? Who's going to stop us? I think that's where it's at now.
well, just a couple more stories to get into before we head out on this transmission. Man, I see a growing, well, not growing, a decline in family values and like family, and the statistics can prove this here. But we have this chart, and this comes from the heritage.org, and U.S. government, U.S. Census Bureau, and National Center for Health Statistics. So growth of unwed childbearing by race in the United States. I mean, we're becoming really secular and really divided. I don't know what it is, but I mean, from 1930 to 1970, there's a lot of turning points in 1970. 1971, when the gold standard was taken off, and then the World Economic Forum was created. Abortion was made a thing, like heavily, like all these things. A lot started happening in the 70s, and a lot of our charts kind of look like this. It's kind of interesting, but look at all of that unwed childbearing from the 70s going on. Now, it gets worse because the death of marriage is even going down as well. I mean, you see it's gone from in 1970 around 90% to now 60% in 2010. I mean, I can't imagine where it would be almost 15 years after this. Probably closer down to maybe 55%. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, despite your values, just even if you're not a Christian, you don't really believe in that whole thing. Like, I think one can see that we're on the fast track to destruction because the family is the strongest unit, and I truly believe that the family is the foundation to most of your success in life. For example, agriculture, food, farming. You grew up on a farm. I mean, you worked on a farm a little bit. I never had the chance to, but that's something that creates agriculture success for us. All of our food now is corporate. It's all owned by big companies that produce unhealthy, unnutritious food. The family used to make that great. You used to be able to know where your meat and eggs came from and your milk. You got it from your local people, and you knew people. Family is dying, and we're becoming so unconnected. I mean, we're becoming so connected with social media, but then it's also becoming so disconnected at the same time. But what do you make of this situation and the decline in the nuclear family? Not even just so much marriage, but just the decline in the nuclear family.
Well, I think that's something they've kind of been pushing for years. I mean, a strong family unit is a good thing. I mean, if you showed the unwed parents and your the birth rates, and I mean, they've done many studies and statistics show that kids that grow up with a father in the home are more likely to go to college, to get a degree, graduate high school, be successful. And it goes against the narrative they want. They want the nanny state. They want everybody to be in the government dole. They don't want a strong family. They want people that you know um, worship the government and rely on everything in the government. And that's what they've done. I mean, with the welfare state and the way they pushed that over the years, it's destroyed this country. I mean, there's an amazing YouTube video, and it's probably 12, 15 minutes, 3 minute video, but it's like Hiroshima versus Detroit. They show Hiroshima, Japan, after the bomb was dropped. They show the city what Detroit looked like at the exact same time. And then they go to 10, maybe whatever. But then they show the two cities. Just see how burned out, how what an absolute shithole Detroit is. And Hiroshima is a bustling city. It's the welfare state. They pushed it. They want everybody to be, government is good. We need to worship the government. We know better for doing it. And it's had a ripple effect on the society, you know, generations that we have. So, it, it's kind of sad to see statistics.
Yeah, and I think young children have their priorities all messed up. I mean, the things that young people will do. Let me just play this. This has really nothing to do with. It kind of does, but this is what young people and people are doing nowadays. Amidst massive amounts of corruption. Let's get distracted by this. Let's play this baffling video. So it's 4 a.m. and all these girls are outside of Target for a Stanley Cup. It is literally a metal tumbler. A metal tumbler. They are all in line for a metal tumbler. I mean, we see this for shoes. We see this for video games. And we are just part of a radical consumerism in this country. And I think I'm sick of it. I mean, I don't know. I can't remove as much corruption as possible. I mean, you look back in history, corruption has always been a thing. It's just how much are you willing to take? And I think we're to a point where we need another 1776.
I think we're probably going to see another 1776 sooner or later, one way or another. I mean, it could happen this damn year. I mean, you listen to some of these people. I mean, with the amount of people we coming over the border that we don't know. I mean,
largest invasion ever.
I mean, migrants is just an enemy force. I mean, if you can cause enough chaos, I mean, all of a sudden you have a constitutional crisis, and hey, maybe we don't need to vote this year. We'll push it off a couple of years until we can get everything squared away, so it'd be a fair election for everybody. I mean, Zelensky pulled it off in Ukraine, and I mean, would you put it past the Democrats to try to do that in this country? What were you saying about reaching people? I mean, you gotta. I mean, we all gotta try. We all gotta try to talk sense into some of these people, and the people that aren't informed, the people that don't pay attention. We need to figure out a way to get them to start paying attention. Otherwise, we are doomed as a country and doomed as a society. And people like me and you and people that watch this show and pay attention to or think like we do will all all be hanging out in some re-education camp, that Hillary Clinton's already talked about trying to do. So I would just say, we try to wake up as many people as you can. I mean, that's all we can do, and that's the best we can do. It's best we can try.
Well, let's hopefully we don't end up in a full-on civil war. Hope you got lots of ammo, lots of storable food. Because if there's a civil war in this country, economy's probably going to get tanked, and there could be worse things. So prepare and, put your faith in America. And that's what it's all about. So, Big Steve, I want to thank you for being on the show today. It's awesome to have you here, and we can't wait to have you back on.
Hey, it's great to be back. It's been a while, but yeah, Always good to join in with you guys.
Awesome. Well, if you guys could like, subscribe, we are on Twitter, formerly or X, formerly known as Twitter, Rumble, as you're watching us now, and we are also on Truth Social. We try to stream on YouTube sometimes, but we already got our first strike from YouTube. They don't like us. Talk about the vaccine, and or no, we talked about depopulation, and they banned us for that. So yeah, with that, like, subscribe.